Hyundai Sonata has been part of the Hyundai portfolio for the better part of 3 decades, and in that time frame, we've seen Hyundai offer up to 7 different generations of this model. In fact, I was in Arizona a couple of months ago testing out the Sonata 1.6T. It was designed to be kind of a first taste because we knew that Hyundai had different variants planned for this all-new 8th generation. So this week, as you can see, Hyundai has loaned me the 2020 Sonata Hybrid, sporting the same sensuous, sporty design language as its gas-only counterpart, but now with up to 52 MPG. So the big question I want to answer, if you guys are looking for the most fuel-efficient midsize family sedan on the market, how does this new Sonata Hybrid stack up? That's what we're here to find out. In addition to offering up to 52 MPG combined on the blue version, Hyundai also says that trim will be able to go up to 686 miles. 686 miles on a full tank of gas. That's more than twice the range of something like, those long-range EVs like a Tesla Model 3. Now, I know some of you may not want to compare this car to that, but you can't help but notice something like that since everybody's talking about range. Now, Hyundai is also introducing a really slick option that I've never seen in the industry so far, and that's the solar roof. The company says if you park the solar roof out in the sun for 6 hours a day, it'll basically keep the 12-volt battery recharged if you were to, say, sit in the car all day with the accessories on, like the radio and so forth, leave the car on, it won't discharge the battery, and it'll actually add up to 2 miles of range per day into the lithium-ion battery pack. So think of it as being able to go 700 free miles over the lifetime of you owning this vehicle. That seems a little bit weird to hear, but for those of you who like numbers, that's something cool, I guess, that you can brag about. Now, the one problem I had with a lot of Hyundai hybrids in the past, especially the Sonata hybrid, are the looks. Hyundai always made the hybrid model look a little bit odd compared to the gasoline-only version. Okay, so on the hybrid version, you can see the same sensuous, sporty design language is carried over here, but Hyundai did make a couple of changes to help differentiate this model from its gas-only versions. Now, if you guys remember the previous generation Sonata Hybrid, it always had kind of its own unique look compared to the gas-only version. Here on this 2020 model, you'd be hard-pressed to actually tell the differences, but staring at the front fascia, you can immediately see that the grille is slightly different. It has a slightly different finish as opposed to the limited trim that I tested a couple months ago. The parametric jewel grille here is at the front of the vehicle, and then you have the standard LED headlights, which the LEDs, by the way, are upgraded if you guys go for the limited trim. These are known as the Matrix design LEDs. It also has that same LED running light that follows the lower portion of the headlight, connects over to the fender here, and it actually will eventually connect with this chrome piece here, which doesn't light up on this part, but it lights up over here. It's a very interesting design language. Really, every time I see this vehicle out on the road, I think it stands out because of that design language. What I don't like about the hybrid model is this chrome mustache that they basically added here at the lower fascia. I think that Hyundai could have gone away with this and maybe added some fog lights. You don't even get fog lights on the gas-only version. It would have been nice to see LED fog lights on the hybrid model. In this shimmering silver exterior color, I like the contrast with the black glossy black trim here, but I just don't like that chrome mustache. Now, following me around the sides of the vehicle, you can see that same sculpted look is carried over here. You have very sharp cut lines over here. You have a very nice overall shape, and the dimensions of the hybrid version hasn't changed. This is right smack in the middle of all its competitors at 192.9 inches long. What the hybrid does get that you'll be able to tell right away are the wheels. Now, I said the wheels were kind of weak sauce on the gas-only version, and that's carried over here on the hybrid. Now, of course, the wheels look like this for aerodynamics because this car has a slippery 0.24 coefficient of drag, which practically matches that of a Tesla Model 3. This limited version has a 17-inch wheel design with these very intricate spokes, which are directional, wrapped in two 1555 series tires. So they're 20 millimeters narrower versus the gas-only version, which is, again, going to help with the aerodynamics of this car. Now, you're probably noticing here the solar roof. This is only coming on the limited trim models, which this solar roof, by the way, adds roughly 80 pounds to the actual structure of the vehicle because, as you guys know, this is going to be heavy. And if you guys are looking for a panoramic sunroof that you can get on the gas-only version, I'm sorry, it's not available on the hybrid model. Hyundai says that If the demand is high enough, they may consider it as an option, but really the solar roof is the only thing that's standard on the Limited. All the other trims, the Blue and the SEL, will just have a painted roof panel, which is kind of a shame. I wish that Hyundai would offer the sunroof at least as an option. Now at the rear of the vehicle, you can see very little things to tell you that this is the hybrid model, except for this little badge that's over here on the side, as opposed to the Limited 1.6T badge. You have this very sculpted rear deck, which resembles styling cues of the current Civic and maybe even a Lincoln product. It's got these full LED taillights, which are connected via this little light strip in the center between the trunk lid. And then down here, you can see it's got a reverse light that's incandescent. It's probably the cheapest part of the whole rear end look. I like the look of the rear with the LEDs, but I don't like how it's an incandescent bulb there. This is also an incandescent bulb for the tag light. I wish Hyundai had thrown in an LED at the lower part of the bumper. The Limited trim also includes these nicely integrated parking sensors, and then there's no visible exhaust tip here. On the hybrid, it's just kind of hidden underneath the rear bumper, which is fine by me. Now opening the trunk, same place to open the trunk like the gas version, just push that portion there in the H. And trunk capacity is what's massively improved this year. It's rated at the same 16 cubic feet as the gas only version, which is about 2.5 cubic feet bigger versus last year's hybrid model. Now as you can see, the seats also fold down in a 60/40 manner. So Hyundai has done a really good job with repackaging the batteries in this new hybrid version so you don't lose any trunk space. And then underneath here, unlike most hybrids, you actually still get a temporary spare tire. So a lot of owners are going to be really happy when they see this. So we don't get the catfish-like looks of the exterior like the previous generation, although I don't really like that chrome mustache that goes along the lower part of the bumper, and these wheels are kind of a throwaway. But overall, I think that the hybrid model looks a lot better, and it definitely has that same sensuous sporty design language that really works on the hybrid model as well. Now on the inside of this one, you can see I'm driving this car right after 8 p.m. and it's starting to get a little bit dark. You can see the interior is just awash in very nice LED lighting. You've got two large LCD displays, and the LED lighting that you see under here is interchangeable. You're just not going to find that in the rest of the competition for the Sonata. On the inside of the Sonata hybrid, everything that you liked about the gas-only version is carried over here. And I have to say, this Limited version with the silver exterior and the black interior, it's a very classic combination. You can also get this with a gray or a beige interior, depending on the exterior color option. Now, shutting the door, it has the same pretty solid sounding thunk as the gas-only version, and starting the car up, you can hear the hybrid version obviously doesn't have an engine starter noise because this is the hybrid model. It kind of just whirs to life. Now, just like the gas-only version, you get the Hyundai's digital key option. This is very similar to what Tesla does with the Model 3. This is standard on the SEL version. So this is basically, it uses near-field communication. So you can just use this key card to unlock the car and start the car up. You also get an actual smart key system. This is the current Hyundai key fob. What is missing from the hybrid model is their Smart Park option. That's the option where you've seen in the Hyundai commercials where you can push a button and have the car pull in and pull out of a parking spot. Hyundai says that the Smart Park option does not work with the hybrid option. Like, it doesn't work for it now because it integrates differently. So they said they're going to look at the actual demand on the gas version, and if people really demand it on the hybrid version, they can add it later on. But for now, you can't get the Smart Park option. You also can't get a panoramic sunroof, as I said earlier. So the interior doesn't feel quite as open and airy as the last one that I sat in. But looking at the rest of this cabin, this limited grade trim has some pretty nice materials in here. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Genesis, their luxury division. That 12.3-inch digital display there is standard on the hybrid version. You can see it's got these really nice looking graphics. It's got customizable gauges. When you flip over the drive modes, you can see here it changes the way the gauges look. Sport actually puts on a red look to the gauges. What does get deleted is the tachometer. The hybrid version doesn't include a tach, which I'm surprised. I thought they would change it to a tach when you guys switched over to sport mode. There's also a custom drive setting here. So there's 4 different drive modes to choose from. Really love the way that screen looks over there. I also like the way this 10.25-inch screen looks over here. This is included when you guys go for the limited grade. It's bigger versus the 8-inch display that you get on the lower trims of this vehicle. This has the latest version of Hyundai's BlueLink telematics. You also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You have a wireless phone charger over there. You see when I plug in my phone, the Apple CarPlay will start pretty much right up, and it's a very quick system. This is the one thing I like about Hyundai system. It's very simple, it's effective. It doesn't take a lot of studying to understand. But when you plug in your phone, you get things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which, by the way, the CarPlay does not take up the entire screen, but I but I like the way it's kind of laid out, so I can have my music here. I can change this to show different stuff if I want it to. So it's a very customizable screen, and it's also very easy to use. When you put the car into reverse, a full 360 camera is included on the limited trim, which the graphics are some of the best in the industry that I've seen, way better than what you're seeing in some of the Honda and Toyota products. So Hyundai is just really killing it in terms of technology. There's also some features in here that you don't get on the competition. For example, if I signal right, it puts a little blind view monitor camera there on the right side of the instrument panel. Signal left, it puts it on the left side. Those blind view cameras are included on the limited trim. By the way, Hyundai's Smart Sense full driver assistance tech is standard on every trim. These are optional, the cameras, which are really helpful. It's kind of like what Honda was doing with their lane watch, but it's just better implemented in this car. It's just a much better overall system. So in terms of the rest of the interior in here, you can see this limited grade has this faux stitching here on the dash. It's soft touch down here. I like the way the gauges look, how they're these little thin vents. You also get features like heated steering wheel. You get heated and ventilated seats, which, by the way, the ventilated seats in this car work really well. They get very cold quickly, unlike some of the vehicles. Like I tested the cooled seats in the Accord. They don't work very well. The ones in the Mazda 6 work okay. The ones in the Camry work okay as well. A heads-up display is also included on this particular one, which does show you things like your blind spot monitoring, your speed, obviously, your GPS instructions if you guys have the GPS pulled up. The rest of this cabin here on the door panels, you can see there's soft touch materials here on the door. The window switches feel really high quality. They're one touch up and down. And this limited trim has a 12 speaker, 600 watt Bose sound system, which definitely sounds good. It's better than the last system that I tried in the Accord, which doesn't have a premium brand name to it. It sounds better than the last Infinity sound system versus the previous generation. So basically everything you're looking for in this car with technology, with space, with features is included in here. The seats are also pretty comfortable and supportive. They're covered in this really soft leather. And then the glove compartment here, you can see it's a pretty big size. It's damped, but not lined with felt. So Hyundai really hit it out of the park with the interior, as you can see, with all the tech, the comfortable seats, all of the gadgets that you get in this car with the head-up display, the cooled seats, which really work extremely well. Although the steering wheel in this car, I'm noticing, Hyundai's been kind of taking some interesting design risk with the steering wheel. This one here doesn't look as odd as what I saw in some of the new Genesis products like the GV80, but it has all these nice steering wheel controls. You've got, your highway driving assist, which is of course new for the new generation Sonata. It's also well lit up, and it includes paddles for the 6-speed automatic transmission. So the steering wheel feels good in your hands. It also has very high quality leather. Now, another area where the Sonata has lagged in the past has been the back seat room, especially when they introduced that sloping rear roof line. This one also has it, but the company says the back seat is much more spacious this year. So the previous generation Sonata had a little bit of a problem with the back seat because of that sloping roof. This new version, Hyundai actually did a really good job with the space. I mean, you still get that sloping roof, but the headroom here is not bad. I don't have to duck my head quite as badly as I did in the previous generation. And in terms of space, legroom is pretty good. Hyundai actually says you only get around 35 inches of legroom. That's actually 4 inches less versus something like the Camry or the Accord. But in the real world, the space is actually pretty good. The floor here is almost completely flat. There's a little bit of a hump here. You get rear seat air vents that are included in this limited trim. You get one USB charging port, just one map pocket over here. But unlike its competitors, Hyundai actually throws in this really nifty sunshade. It's a manual sunshade, but I wasn't expecting to find something like this, especially in this price point. If you fold down this little armrest here, Hyundai also gives you cup holders, but no additional storage. So overall, the back seat will accommodate taller folks, and headroom in here is not bad. Now, every time you start this car up, it diverts to its eco mode, and it'll actually tell you right there, eco, in the digital display. The cool thing about this car is when you change the drive mode, you can select between smart, you can select between eco, sport. Sport is my favorite because it changes the gauges to red, and it also changes the font, although I'm surprised it didn't add a tachometer. I was expecting it to add a tachometer, and this is the hybrid version. You don't necessarily buy it for performance, but it actually has pretty decent acceleration, so let's find out what's powering this thing. Under the hood of the Sonata Hybrid, things are changed, but not quite as much as you expected them to be, considering this is an all-new generation. You have essentially the same powertrain from last year with some efficiency improvements. Now, of course, the Hybrid is going to marry a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle. It also has gasoline direct injection. It now sports their Smart Stream engine technology, which basically means it helps to reduce the friction. Now, of course, on its own, the gas engine will make 150 horsepower and 139 pound-feet of torque. That's obviously not a lot of power. Now, it marries with a 39 horsepower electric motor, which also adds 151 pound-feet of torque. When you add the combined outputs of the gas and electric motor, you get 192 ponies. Now, that's actually 1 less horsepower than you got in last year's version, and about 20 less horsepower than what you're going to get in the Camry Hybrid and the Accord Hybrid. So the Sonata is a little bit on the lower end for power figures. Now, what is really good is the fuel economy. Hyundai has actually improved the efficiency on this powertrain by as much as 25% if you guys go for the blue trim. So you'll get up to 52 MPG combined. So the blue trim will get 51 in the city and 54 on the highway, while this trim here is the limited. It has slightly bigger tires, it's a little bit heavier. It gets 45 in the city and 51 on the highway. Still very good numbers. That's better than what you're gonna get in the Camry and basically matches the Accords for combined rating, although the Accord has a much lower rating, even if you guys go for the baser end of the Accord. Now, a nice premium touch here that I noticed, the hood is actually held up by struts. Most of its competitors use a prop rod, and unlike most of its competitors, Hyundai uses a 6-speed automatic transmission, which is probably the only hybrid aside from other Hyundais that uses a stepped automatic as opposed to a CVT. Hyundai says they've improved the transmission this year to include a special shift logic, which helps to reduce shift shock and shifting by as much as 30%. Hyundai says that improves efficiency, improves durability, and makes the new Sonata Hybrid quicker to accelerate. So we'll talk about that as we go into the driving scene later on. Now, this one here, as it sits, weighs around 3,530 pounds, so it's about 200 pounds heavier versus the gas-only version. So the active shift control is an interesting piece of technology that they added this year to the 6-speed automatic. And unlike the competitors and rivals in this segment, Hyundai still uses a stepped automatic, which is different. I mean, everybody who complains about hybrids, they hate the CVTs. I will say that CVTs are matched very ideally for hybrid powertrains because of their ability to just select infinite amount of ratios. A stepped automatic is a weird sensation in this car. Now, of course, with the active shift control, Hyundai says that they have allowed the transmission to work more harmoniously with the electric motor, so it reduces shift shock, increases shift speed, by 30% compared to the previous generation. I'll leave it in sport mode here. Let's try putting our foot down. I'll actually turn off the traction control as well. Now, there is no test data yet for this new version, but it feels like it gets to 60 and around the 8-second mark. It's not going to blow the doors off of anything. This is very comparable to the 1.6 turbo that I drove when I was in Phoenix late last year. And the acceleration is just fine. It has the traditional gear shifts. I'm not really noticing that the transmission feels that much different versus like a traditional, just gasoline only version. I mean, you can feel the transmission shifting. The spacing of the gears also feels like it's very wide. The engine also has a rather buzzy sound. It's a 2-liter engine, so it's a smaller engine. It runs on the Atkinson cycle, but it has their direct injection. And unlike most hybrids, it has paddles here, which I could select second there. Although having a car with paddles, being able to choose gears when I don't have a tachometer is kind of frustrating, so I wish Hyundai had thought that through and made that change over to a tach whenever I'm in sport mode. It's just kind of useless. So you'll never use the paddles when you're driving this car because you can't see where the engine revs are. So in terms of the transmission, I kind of also think Hyundai should have gone to an 8-speed automatic instead. 6 speed seems like it's a little low on gears. I was expecting them to do 2 more gears this year. That would have probably helped the fuel economy, although I've been averaging around 43 to 45 MPG without even trying. So this is very good gas mileage. I've actually put around 150 miles on this car, and it's still showing 510 miles of range. So when they dropped off this car, it said 600 miles almost. So that is very impressive range, and you can actually get that in the real world. Now, I imagine most of you won't be driving this thing in sport mode. In smart mode or eco mode, this car really shines. It has a very comfortable, controlled, quiet ride. The engine kind of fades into the background, and most of the times it actually will use electric power alone. You can see the energy flow there shows the electric motor is just powering the front wheels. It even shows that solar roof panel there, and when the sun's out blaring, it'll actually show power being put back into the lithium-ion batteries by the solar roof from the energy it's recapturing. And really, the seats are comfortable, the visibility is good. It's got all of the Hyundai safety suite of tech. It's got the adaptive cruise control with a pedestrian detection. It's got that blind view camera there, so whenever I signal right or signal left, it shows me what's in my blind spot, which is a really great feature that Hyundai has been implementing on all their cars. I think it's a great safety feature that a lot of people can get used to very, very quickly. The heads-up display also is very subtle. It gives me a nice view. It gives me a nice, representation of what the speed I'm going. It even shows you your speed limit in the speed limit, because it uses the camera there to show you the speed limits on the road. So really, as a commuter car, there's so much to like about this new Sonata. It's really hard to find fault in it. I mean, sure, it's a little bit boring to drive. It's not going to blow the doors off of anything. But, with its smooth, comfortable ride, its big trunk, its plentiful interior space, all of this tech in here with this 10.25-inch display, this big 12-inch LCD display here. I mean, compared to the Camry Hybrid and the Accord Hybrid, its main rivals, there's a lot to like about this Hyundai. I mean, combine that in with the top warranty, the best warranty in the business that it offers, and I can see why a lot of people would end up choosing this. Now, still, as of this filming, Hyundai has not announced pricing of this car, but I mean, if they can keep this price to around $35,000 fully loaded, I think that they're going to be attracting a lot of people here from the Camry and Accord, because this thing gets basically the same, if not the best gas mileage as the Camry Hybrid. Even though it's down a few ponies compared to the Camry and Accord Hybrid, it accelerates pretty much as well. And if you want that traditional 6-speed, this is really your only game in town. Really, the next chapter of the Sonata that I'm really looking forward to driving is the Sonata N-Line. Now, I drove a prototype model when I was in Phoenix last year, at the end of last year. Came away pretty impressed, but that was only about 90% done. So Hyundai says the N-Line version is coming by the end of this year, and we should also be seeing the all-new version of the sister car to this, the Kia Optima, which we've already seen it as the K9 in Korea and other parts of the world. It's a beautiful car, so if you guys like the Sonata and you prefer the looks of the Optima, I might suggest waiting for that. But other than that, this is one of the top driving and performing and tech-focused mid-size sedans that you can find, and I personally think it looks a lot better in the rear versus that Accord. I still haven't gotten used to that Accord's rear taillights with that little lobster claw look. The front of the Accord looks good, but I think that Hyundai has really beat them in terms of the interior, the tech, and especially the warranty. Oh, look at that. It shows you a tachometer when the blind view camera is on. Although it's useless, I have to drive around like an idiot with my turn signal on the whole time to see the tach. The headlights in this car are also a full LED design. They don't swivel. However, I was expecting them to swivel, and I'm sad that Hyundai doesn't offer fog lights on this car. The Camry does not offer fog lights either, but the Accord does, so I think Hyundai should consider upgrading the headlights to a swiveling LED and offering fog lights. You hear that noise? That's the sound that the hybrid model makes when you're backing up to let pedestrians or people that's walking by the car know that you're actually moving. It's an interesting noise, and it's something that's going to be mandated by the federal government. But once you park this thing and get out, I have to say, the all-new 8th generation Sonata really showcases just how far Hyundai has come in the last few years. I mean, when I drove the gas-only version, I was really impressed with the overall package of this car, from the interior with all its tech, to the comfortable seats, to the spacious cabin, to all the value that you get and that killer warranty. And now Hyundai has finally given the Sonata that same standout look that we got on the 6th generation model about 10 years ago. This sensuous design language, I didn't like it at first, but I have to say it's really growing on me. What I don't like about all the current Sonatas right now are the wheels. I still don't think the wheels really match the body lines of this car, but that's something that the all-new Sonata N-Line should fix when that comes out later this year. So after spending a week with the hybrid version, here are my final thoughts. It gets insanely good gas mileage. Without even trying, I got around 45 MPG in this thing, and the trip computer easily showed over 600 miles of range. 600 miles of range in something like this, that's double what you're gonna get from a lot of those long-range EVs. So really, the Sonata Hybrid is the ultimate commuter family car, and there's still a lot of people who find something like this equally appealing. I mean, I find very little faults. It's slightly slower versus the gas-only version, sure, but I think for the increased efficiency, that's something that a lot of people are probably going to be okay with if you guys are looking for a hybrid mid-size car. The big question you're probably wondering, what's it gonna cost to put the Sonata Hybrid in your driveway? Well, Hyundai didn't have official pricing for this model yet as of this filming. They should be announcing that within a couple of days, so I'll make sure to include a little comment below with the final actual pricing. But the regular Sonata starts at around $23,600. The 2019 model costs around $25,800. I'm gonna estimate this would come in right around $26,000. It's gonna be a little bit more expensive versus the old version, obviously, but this fully loaded limited model, I'm gonna say is gonna be around $37,000. Now, obviously, it is a fairly good amount of money, but if you look at something like the Camry Hybrid, that actually starts at around $28,500, and Accord Hybrid will start at around $25,600 as well. So I think Hyundai is going to be able to price this thing fairly well when it does go on sale, of course, in June of this year. It was supposed to come out in the spring of this year, but of course, with the coronavirus pandemic, Hyundai said they actually had to delay the production of this car. It's going to be built at their assembly plant in Ulsan, Korea. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.